It's a sad thing to witness a marriage that's in trouble. It's embarrassing. It's shameful to the couple. It's some of the deepest pain imaginable. Conflict, especially the type of conflict that challenges trust and breaks hearts, is a rough patch for all who are close to the matter. In fact, handling the subject of preaching a message about marriage can be a real emotional trigger for people, depending on their experience. I got to tell you, it's a slippery slope that I find hard to navigate at times. It's in these types of experiences that we learn of gut-wrenching, deep sorrow and grief. When marriages are tried, couples lose a certain level of innocent fantasy about their relationship. Yet, it's an opportunity for them to grow deeper in faith, love, and commitment. For this reason, it's no wonder God uses on more than one occasion the metaphor of marriage when it comes to describing the bruised relationships between him and the people of Israel. Too often in our Bible stories, we find the focus is on how God has no desire to abandon his people, but there are consequences. There are consequences, miserable consequences that we read about, which lead to this abandonment of the people. Because God is not in a position to be undervalued. God is not in a position to be forgotten. God is not in a position to be victimized by unfaithfulness. My Bible tells me, friends, that God is relational. God is relational. And in this relational atmosphere, as God is relational, he is relational with people, his creation. And we, his creation, human beings, have a role to honor in this relationship. And it's this honoring that the great vision of humanity is realized, that one day all will be fed. All will be taken care of. There'll be no injustice. There'll be no classism, no racism. There'll be neither Greek nor Jew, slave nor free, black nor white, poor nor rich. But I look around and that's not how it is today. It's not. It's one of those then things. Then, when we properly honor that relationship between us and God, that will happen. And until then, God has to continue with the bride, us, the type of bride that keeps walking out of the wedding chapel, a people who keep walking out of God's life. Now, God does not sit still for that. He does not sit still for that. So to avoid this disaster of abandonment, God raises up a leader, a prophet, a spokesperson, someone who has enough spiritual depth to see, not just see, but hear, and feel even the disturbance in God's voice and the suffering among God's people. And these prophets with whom we've been reading about and discussing about, you've heard me preach about over these weeks since we began the season after Pentecost, have all concluded their ministry. They're done. Elisha and Amos, Hosea, Isaiah, and now Jeremiah have spent time healing and pleading and loving and weeping for a lost people, a people whose personal deterioration, their personal deterioration has led to the entire community suffering. God can't be pleased at where we are in these moments, friends. God can't be pleased with ill treatment of those who are seeking refuge. God can't be pleased with the hatred of people because of their color. God can't be pleased with people not caring for the sick. God can't be pleased with increasing poverty and decreasing opportunities for people to change their destiny. God can't be pleased with the people who have displaced him with other gods. Gods like bureaucracy, Christian nationalism, exclusivity, entitlement, self-righteousness, greed, religious abandonment of mission and service. There is still a plumb line hanging from the wall. There is still a summer fruit basket rotting on the table. There is still a vineyard with only wild grapes. There still grows healthy, beautiful fig trees that bear no fruit. The question before us today is this: is there a prophet around? Is there a prophet around? Because it's a tragedy to glance at the margins and see no sign of a prophet. No one who today sees and hears and feels how God feels about us and shares it with us. So this morning, my friends, I'm going to have to rely on God's word of truth to prophesy to each of our hearts today. Let me share from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 2. I'm going to share verses 4 through 13. It'll also be on the screen if you want to read it. Hear the word of the Lord, O house of Jacob, and all the families of the house of Israel. Thus says the Lord, what wrong did your ancestors find in me, that they went far from me, and went after worthless things, and became worthless themselves? They did not say, where is the Lord who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, who led us in the wilderness, in the lands of deserts and pits, in a land of drought and deep darkness, in a land that no one passes through, where no one lives? I brought you into a plentiful land, to eat its fruits and its good things. But when you entered, you defiled my land and made my heritage an abomination. The priests did not say, where is the Lord? Those who handle the law did not know me. The rulers transgressed against me. The prophets prophesied by Baal and went after things that do not profit. Therefore, once more I accuse you, says the Lord. And I accuse your children's children. Cross to the coast of Cyprus and look. Send to Kedar and examine with care. See if there has ever been such a thing. Has a nation changed its gods even though there are no gods? But my people have changed their glory for something that does not profit. Be appalled, O heavens, at this. Be shocked. Be utterly desolate, says the Lord. For my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living water, and dug out cisterns for themselves, cracked cisterns that can hold no water. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Amen. Our quick reaction understanding of these verses is that God is on our side until we're not on God's side, right? Isn't that what you get on the surface there? As long as we're on God's side, He's with us until we're not on His side. But does that make any sense? Is that the way we should react to it? To me, the God that we've been singing about today, God of love, I don't think He's like that. I don't think He's like that. Maybe my knee-jerk reaction to the scripture is not correct. So if I slow down a bit and consider these verses, maybe it really says God is on our side, but sometimes we wander away. We wander away. Sometimes we get off the track, if you will. And by off the track, I mean sin. Do you hear me? All the commotion in our text today is because folks don't know that they are off track. It's what I read isn't anger. It isn't wrath. It's God calling His people back. That's what it is. They've wandered off. Worse, they think all that they have received is due to their own efforts rather than a gift from God. And in doing so, they have forgotten to be grateful. All their gratitude is leaked out through unseen cracks in their self-made lives. They're off track. They've been distracted, if you will. You know what distracted is, right? That's when you tell a fella, hey, will you go get something, and on the way he sees something shiny? It's like when Patty says, hey, will you go get this in the store? And I said, I'm going to go get chips. And what was it? She had to call me and say, where are you at? I'd wandered into some friends and been talking to them. I said, I'm in the liquor section and it's not my fault. I'll meet you. I did blame it on someone else, didn't I, right away? Because I got distracted. I knew what I was supposed to do, but I stopped on the way. I lost focus. Not only got off track, time went by, and I was missed. So much so, someone had to call to me to get me back on track. I think that's the image that Jeremiah offers. He says, he doesn't say off track. Jade, I want you to know, I know you're spell checking. He says we leak. We leak. That we can't hold the grace of God, the water of life, because we have cracks. We are flawed. All right? God can hold it. God can give it. We can't hold it. We receive it. All right? This water of life, we receive it. We fill up week by week. This is a fill-up opportunity right now. Right here. We sing praise. We start to fill up. We pray, ask for forgiveness, empty ourselves so that we can fill up. But throughout the week, possibly even tomorrow morning, you wake up and you found it's gone. Or something will happen and you'll wonder where it went. And if we don't return to be filled up again, we go dry. And then we spend time running on empty. We know we need to return to the source. No one, Jeremiah reminds us in the text, thought to ask about the author of the goodness that the people were enjoying. No one thought about it. They just became satisfied with being dry. No one thought to wonder where God is in the business of their lives. So we've gathered this week here to worship and to do that very thing, that fill-up thing. All right? We have. to fill up on God's presence. That's why we're here, to ask God, where are you in the rest of our lives? We ask that, but then we are reminded that God has always been present. He's always been present. We're the ones who wandered off. He was right beside us, and we thought we were wandering off. We're the ones who said that we could handle it on our own. So now we're back here again to ask for God to be present, for God to make God's self known to us. And friends, we need to do it again and again because we leak. We just do. We're cracked cisterns. That's what Jeremiah says. We're cracked cisterns. I wanted to say we're crackpots, but Jay, I swore I would not even mention it. I didn't even write it in my sermon. I wasn't going to say that you guys are crackpots. Cracked cisterns is what it says, Jerry. It's what it says right there, not crackpots. I mean, we let the presence of God leak away from us day by day until we realize it, or something happens to remind us that we are in need of it. And because we yearn to live full lives, not half-empty ones, most times we try throughout the week to refill ourselves. We do that. Rather than being refilled with God's living word, we try to fill up on stuff. Really, they're just distractors. Things that keep our mind off of our emptiness, our dryness. We need that living water. So we have to ask, what are the ways that we can refill in between these times of worship? What are the ways that we can do it? How can we meet at the well again throughout the week when we are at our driest point? What can we do to be reminded that God is with us? Well, as United Methodist Christians, we're reminded by John Wesley of the means of grace. John Wesley, the founder of Methodism, taught that God's grace is unearned, and that we were not able to idle and wait to experience grace, but rather we're to engage in the means of grace. How we can get that grace into our lives. The means of grace are ways that God works invisibly in us, quickening, strengthening, and confirming our faith, so that God's grace permeates in and through us. The means of grace can be divided into two parts. People like to do that. They really go together. You can't have one without the other. One's called the works of devotion, or they call it acts of piety. And the other is the works of mercy, those practical applications of love to those in need. Acts of piety, acts of mercy. So these acts of piety, these works of devotion are like reading our Bibles. Reading our Bibles. Not only that, thinking about what we read in our Bibles. Not only that, gaining a better understanding of what is written in our Bibles so we can apply it. Studying the Scriptures with others, reading them aloud together in groups. Prayer is a means of grace. Fasting, healthy living, and sharing our faith with others. These things strengthen our bond with God. Now, works of mercy we seem to have no trouble doing. We seem to like doing it. We've mentioned some today. All right, doing good works, visiting the sick, visiting those in prison, feeding the hungry, giving generously to the needs of others. Those are the active displays of God's grace at work through us. That's our loving our neighbor as we would want to be loved. We seem to take to those really well because we immediately get some gratification. Some will thank us for it. But we don't do it for the thanks. We don't do it for gratitude. We're doing it to show God is present in our lives. And we're grateful for that. So much so, we'll go out of our way to help others. These works of grace are performed as an acknowledgement that God's presence is not only with us, but it's also to be shared. These works of grace, whether piety or mercy, whether devotion or mercy, fill us daily and maintain our solid relationship with God. They also help us to patch up those leaks a bit so we can hold that grace longer, so that we might retain more of the grace we cracked cisterns might need in times of trouble when we're challenged personally. Sisters and brothers, the simple fact is we are all cracked. We're all cracked. We all leak. But Jesus said, one day we will be made new. Do you hear me? One day we'll be made new. All right? This perishable container, all right, will be made imperishable. This vulnerable body will be made invulnerable. The fragile will be made unbreakable. But that is not today. That is not today. Today we are called to focus on the one keeping us together and filling us to overflowing with his rich blessings. We are called today to remember our devotion to God. That devotion, the same as when we first surrendered our lives to Jesus. Remember that. Remember how you followed God's calling courageously through frightening times. Remember how God saw you through tough times and through good times. Remember it. And remember that it is God, not you, who provides the good in your life. We are called to remember God, friends, and to allow God to be present in our life. Amen.